Welcome back to another episode of Bitch is a Bad Word. If you're new here, I'm Lindsay. I'm one mom with 4 kids and 0 fancy letters behind my name. I bring on all of the experts to help us unpack our experiences as we navigate this road through and out of domestic abuse together. Today, I have the absolute honor of sitting down with another baddie from the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Nikhita is joining us today, and we are talking all things litigation. Family court, civil court, criminal court, all the courts can seem very overwhelming, but she's really going to guide us into this next chapter. It's all about being prepared for the game ahead. She's putting tools in our bestie toolkit. She is bringing 10 years, y'all, of experiencing fielding legal questions from survivors. And she knows where we are. And I'm incredibly grateful to this partnership with the hotline for supporting the Bestie Gang. And I'm ready to get right into it. So let's go. Nikhita, welcome to Bitch is a Bad Word.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm so excited.
If the last few minutes of our time right before we rolled are any indication of just what an awesome human you are, I'm so excited to introduce you to the Bestie Gang. You are part of one of the most insanely supportive movements, organizations in the world, in my opinion, and you do so much for so many women, which brings us to our partnership today with the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for everything you do for women and everyone everywhere. But in particular, I get so many messages from our listeners that talk about, I reached out to the hotline, and you're doing the work that needs to be done. So thank you in advance.
Oh, Lindsay, thank you. It's such an honor to work with the hotline and to be part of the movement in general. I've been doing this work for about 20 years, and it's really neat to see how the progression, it's working, what we are doing is working, and the way folks are speaking out, and even the way that you're sharing your story and encouraging others to share their story and ask for help. We didn't see that as prevalent 20 years ago. So thanks for doing what you're doing. I believe in progression. I think it's working. And thank you for amplifying your voice and the voice of others. I appreciate you.
Well, it means the world to be able to think that there's one person out there tuning in and listening. And I say this all the time to my listeners. I don't want you to phone in and be like, hi, long-time listener. I want you to come in, get what you need, and feel that tribe around you so that you can make the next steps to be safe and reclaim your life. And send me a message on Instagram that you're doing well, and that's awesome. I don't care about the numbers. I want you to come in and get the help. So every time I have somebody on the show that I say has all the letters, has the understanding. So not only do you have the credentials, but you're in the moment, you're in the movement, boots on the ground. You're listening to these, thousands of calls that come into the hotline every day. You're in the thick of it. So tell us a little bit about your background and your journey to the hotline.
Yeah, thanks for asking. My background. So like I mentioned, I've been doing this work for about 20 years, and it's been in different capacities. I fell into the work, the work found me, and I've heard others on your show, including Katie, who have kind of spoken similarly about how that worked. I personally am not someone who identifies as someone who has been harmed. I've been very lucky and blessed that I have stayed safe. And so it's serendipitous, I think, that this movement found me, and we've been paired together. So in college, we just had to pick. My major was psychology. We had to pick a placement. I just looked on a sheet of paper, and I picked a victim services department with law enforcement. I was like, that could be interesting. What is this like? And this was back in the day, Lindsay, where you would go into people's homes when the abusive partner wasn't there, and you would safety plan. And I was just this young little 20-year-old role with victims advocates. Doing this work, and it was just really interesting to me. That's really what it was. And I just kept wanting to learn more. And that was a semester of work, and that's all it was. I was just young and I wanted to learn more. My supervisor at the time said, if you really want to get into this work, you should answer hotline calls. And so I worked for a rape crisis center for the next 2 years. And that's where I would take calls in the middle of the night, or I would sign up to be the advocate that would go out to the hospital to help during the forensic exam post sexual assault. And it was just so people centered. And I just found I was learning a lot about myself. I was learning a lot about the world. So it just kept going. Lindsay, I always knew I wanted to go to law school. I went to law school, and every placement I had, I was like, oh, I'll do this part of victim services. I'll do this part of domestic violence. I worked in DA's offices. I worked in legal departments in local programs that did immigration work. And then after that, in law school, I carried the work as a student attorney. And so I would represent clients through supervision with my professors in various hearings in immigration, applying for asylum, applying for VAWAs, U visas, some temporary protected status cases. So just any opportunity that I could get in the field, I chased it. And then after law school, I kept going. And so I worked statewide for a few years, did a lot of policy work, did a lot of support with battering intervention programs. So I sat in the groups where people were court ordered to go and talk about their violence. It was mostly men's groups. And I'll tell you, Lindsay, I feel like I learned more about domestic violence in those spaces. Like it was such a different angle and how it was justified and how that thinking carried things through. So that was really transformative. And then I did local program work for 10 years. So I ran the legal department. I ran a few other programs there, including a supervised visitation and exchange center where you would have to exchange your kids for the weekend or we would supervise. And so again, our clients were the victims, the children, as well as the person who used violence. Super, super enlightening. And all that work brought me to the hotline. So I oversee program services, all the advocates that do this great work at the heart of the mission. They answer the call. That's who I support right now. So we've got over 170 right now. We're growing still.
I think the work that's being done at the hotline is just so amazing. I had the honor of visiting and listening in on calls and being in the center and seeing just the love and kindness, but patience, like the just absolute, like everyone just having patience for for everything that was happening. I love sitting. You guys did such a great job of then like debriefing everybody. Like that was a really hard call, or tell me about all of the things that I never even understood were necessary when you experience trauma. So as you know, you've spent all these years in the thick of it, watching exchanges in a center. I can't even imagine just the amount of trauma you must have experienced and seen, kids that don't want to go, parents that are like volatile, nasty, all the things that are happening in those moments. I mean, we're seeing humans at their absolute worst. When you can abuse anyone, you are at your worst.
Yeah.
Whatever change may happen along the way, I hope to God you find it. But in those moments, what you're seeing is somebody being abused emotionally, physically, otherwise, when there's children involved. I mean, like when I was listening in on these calls, the trauma I was experiencing, walking through that path with them. So you take all of your years of experience and then you get to be working with the hotline, who like the entire organization is there to serve and destigmatize and release the shame of the victim, because it's such a shame-filled, riddled experience. You take it on like, I can't believe I'm here. How did I let this happen? I keep going back, or everything that I just witnessed in just the short amount of time that I had at the hotline was like, the word was like, I just felt like patience. Like we're just there for them, whatever they need, however long it takes. There was one woman who was doing a chat. We were sitting, it was like 20 something minutes. And I mean, sometimes you can't even get 20 minutes with your best friend to like talk to you about this. And I'm like, they were just sitting there. She's like, yeah, I got her. I'm just going to send her some stuff. I'm going to send her some information. It sounds like she's still there. She's really interested. So I love everything that you're doing and that the hotline's doing for anyone who needs it. So I say this all the time. If you're listening right now and you need a bestie, the hotline is there for you 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I think one thing our movement does really, really well is like, it's so important when it is the first time someone finds that courage to speak out and tell their story. It is so important that that story is received well, right, from that person. Like it has to go well. It just has to go well, because what that does is that gives you courage to say, well, maybe I'm not crazy, right? Like maybe there is something to this, because you've been convinced otherwise for so long. And so it's a tremendous responsibility. I have seen people, CEOs who are supposed to go into a big important meeting. Someone introduces themselves, says, "Nice to meet you." This is CEOs of like nonprofits. And that CEO will delay the meeting because that person has started to tell their story. And that CEO is like, this is what takes precedence, right? And that's who I want to be, right? Is like, that is what matters the most, is when someone tells their story, is that you show up in a way that is a bestie, is you just are there to listen and then let them lead on what they want to do. So it's, you mentioned like being in the thick of it and seeing like people at their worst. Lindsay, you also see people at their best. Like, this is where resilience just shines through. This is where bravery comes through. This is like the height of compassion and love that you see on a daily basis. And so it's like simplified with like, that Mr. Rogers quote, like, look for the helpers.
Yes, I was
I
actually
am
like, oh, I love that quote.
surrounded by helpers all day long. Like, what could be better? Like, what
Oh,
could
I
be
love that quote so much because
Yeah.
it's everything you ever need to know. And I love that you said, like, I mean, it's all the helpers, it's all the love you need. It's anyone listening right now that's just like, I don't know what I'm in. I don't know what to do. I feel crazy. You're gaslit so much that you start gaslighting yourself. Like, you don't really know what's real and what's true. But if you are listening, you're curious about something. And it's knowing that there is so much support around you. And it's just that one phone call. It's just that one, DM to me, or the conversation with that bestie to say, listen, like, I'm in a bad way. And someone being like, okay, talk to me. I got you. So the hotline does that. Everything that comes out of the hotline, I've had a couple, I think 2 episodes with somebody where it was Bird Beauty. So they just started a shampoo and they're like, we have the hotline's number on the back. I'm like, I love it so much. I'm like,
I love it.
Like, it's like, okay, you're sitting there.
1-800-799-SAFE, just so I can like
Yes. I say it all the time. I'm like, 1-800-799-7233.
Right.
I can like literally do it as like in my sleep as fast as I can. We got you.
Yeah.
Hey, baddie. We are building the biggest, baddest bestie gang, and it's popping off on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/bitch is a bad word. We have free tiers, paid tiers. We even shed some real tiers. The paid for tiers get you ad-free listening, BTS, merch drops, merch discounts, all the things. But the free tier is absolute money too. We also have a private Discord server where you can feel safe to share your story and meet a new bestie, because we vet every single member. That's right. You need to show your ID to get up in this club. Visit patreon.com/bitch is a bad word. I can't wait to hang out with you there. We have you on for a very specific reason, because this is a topic that is so daunting to most people. You hope to God that you never have to set foot in a courtroom or be faced with a lawsuit or, have to fight for the rights to your safety, your freedom, and your children. And that's the reality for many women that are listening to this show, that are making the decision to leave or have made the decision to leave, and they're facing family court or they're facing civil court. And I'd love to sort of have you explain both sides, because they both are completely different places, completely different rules. Yeah. And today, if you're not watching, today I'm wearing my MILF hat, and I don't know if I've told you what this means, but it's not what you think. But it's Mothers in Litigation Forever. Indeed. It is my movement, and I am growing a MILF mafia. So like, if you are pro se all day, just listen to the show. We got you.
So good. So good.
So I'd love for you to give a little insight to our pro-pers as to, what family court is, what civil court is, what do we have to work with here?
Yeah, Lindsay, it could be a mess, all right? It could be a mess. It could be a mess if you're an attorney practicing in that court. Like, that's kind of that piece of it is there's just, it's all rules in what it comes to. So, my previous role, so I oversaw the legal department, did some litigation, did a lot of legal advice. I think the biggest important thing is like, find someone who can break it down for you in terms that throws the legal terms like out the window. Like, they're just so irrelevant when you're talking to someone, or if you want to talk to someone who wants to figure out how to navigate this. what gets complicated, and this, like you touched on this, is it's really rare that only one legal issue is like present at one time, right? So like maybe there's something with custody, but then is there also a protective order? Is there also a criminal case? Do you also have a lease you have to figure out? Do you have credit card debt where you got creditors calling you? Is there an immigration layer? So like all these things get bundled together and it gets so confusing to be able to parse it out. So finding some place to start, right? Which is the hotline, which is what I recommend. And starting that way and say, how do I break this apart? And you have to take it piece by piece. You cannot understand it all at once. I went to law school for 3 years and I practiced for 10 after. I'm still figuring it out, right? Like it's just so complicated and each case is so different. So I think like the taking a beat and finding someone you trust, whether it be a lawyer or not, and just helping you think is really important. And so what I mean by that is like, you got to figure out who you're talking to. I think that part gets super confusing. As you know, when you start getting involved in the system, Lindsay, you start getting phone call after phone call after phone call, right? And you don't know when they say, oh, I'm so-and-so with this division, or I'm so-and-so with this program, or you called us, like you start to forget. Like, who is it that's calling you? So we talk a lot about different strategies and like how to keep that straight and like how to tell the story differently. But I think that's just the starting point, is just owning like you're not going to master it, and that's okay. It's really about what is it that you can accomplish today, and that's what we try to do. We just try to break it down as much as possible.
So if you're leaving, you've left. Let's just base it on this. So we've got a bestie. She's found safety. She's left, and now she's looking for representation. As we know, sometimes you can't afford it. There are resources that are limited. I mean, like all of that. You're expected to make these really big decisions in a really short amount of time while you're still in trauma. So I love to talk about how, you know, I'm teaching you something I wish I had known. I didn't know how to find a lawyer. I like went on Google, I found the first person. I didn't know anything really about like SEO. I still really don't. But that first person just paid for that spot. And I was like, yes, let's go.
Yeah.
You're number one on the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I spent all my money with the wrong attorney and like with the wrong person who even said, let's not talk about the DV because the judge just, let's just leave it for now. And you're like, I have to take your advice. I'm going to listen to everything you said, and I'm paying you a lot of money to do it. So I want to walk somebody through. We keep hearing you need to find a trauma-informed attorney, but what does that mean? Like, what should somebody be looking for in representation?
Yeah, I mean, someone that you feel comfortable with, like you need to get a bestie, like with a lawyer. Like you need to have someone that is hearing you and that you're also hearing them, right? So what does a true bestie do? A true bestie will tell you when you're wrong. Like they'll be able to tell you. And you got to take it too, right, Lindsay? So like, that lawyer's a professional if you find the right one now, if you find the right one. But you have to be able to connect with that lawyer in a way that your conversations, you feel like you are heard, you feel like your goals are something that they are on board with and they get it. And that you can accept, like not accept, but when they disagree with you, that you can figure out why, right? And that it's not going to feel like someone just talking down to you or feeling like you're dumb, that you can truly understand like what's going on. And that's what it means to be trauma informed. Trauma informed does not mean giving somebody else everything that they want, right? Trauma informed means that you're able to talk to them in a way where the truth and transparency is out there. And so people can make decisions when they have all the information in front of them. When I have someone who reaches out to me and says, how do I find a lawyer? Oh my gosh. And they have money to get a lawyer, Lindsay. That's a big old asterisk.
That's like, right. That's the big asterisk.
That's the big asterisk. And we could talk about the ones who don't, because, you know, the consultation will take what, 250, 300, 500, depending on the lawyer every single time. So it may not be realistic for me to say, talk to 15 lawyers. Like that's going to be expensive. If you're someone who can do that, I think that's fantastic. Find the bestie. And I would ask them, the first thing I would ask is, have you done a protective order and how many? Because that's kind of the step before, like a lot with family law, right? And they're intertwined a lot. So I think a lot of lawyers feel really comfortable with like divorce, custody, child support, et cetera. But when you throw in abuse, it's a different type of practice completely, because now you're dealing with someone might not care about the rules, might not care about what the judge says, and might try to like play games this whole time, which is like something that you've experienced, right? So you need to have someone who knows how that game is played and believes you when you say these are the moves that they're making, they're cheating, right?
Ah,
So that's like the part where I would ask a lot is like, because I think if you say, do you have experience with domestic violence? I think a lot of lawyers will say yes.
right.
Um, what I would ask is how many protective orders have you done? How many have you won? What's the hardest case you've done? Sort of what's the craziest opposing party that you've had, and tell me how you navigated that. What's the case you thought you were going to win and you didn't? So like really just getting into those details, I would feel more secure.
Oh, wow.
And
You can ask them that. I would never have thought you can ask
it's
them
your
that.
money, Lindsay. You can ask me.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, see, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. You're like, it's your money, girl. You gotta protect that shit.
And they work for you, like right, like they work for
Uh,
you. You
well,
retain
so
them,
even
right?
that, like, think about a survivor. Like, you've spent your whole relationship with somebody who's telling you how to think, feel, and do. How
Totally.
you have no autonomy. You have definitely no financial autonomy. So if you're in a position where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have to make a decision, and you've spent all this time like deferring to the other person, you
Yeah.
forget that, like, hold on, let me stand here like in my new position of
Yeah.
power body to say, you work for me. This is my money. And so many people, I mean, outside of abuse, so many women aren't used to saying that. And so
Yeah.
I really love that you said it. So you could just like hear somebody being like, you don't have to be not, you don't be like, you work for me, bitch. But you're like, but
Totally. Totally.
that mindset of like, hold on. And if it's not tracking, if it doesn't feel good, you can say, okay, thanks. I had
Yeah.
no idea you could ask those like deep questions, but it makes sense
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And it's like a partnership, right? So I think the other thing is a good lawyer should be able to say that, like that we need to work together in this. Like, if you're just going to do what I say, all you're going to do is be mad about the outcome later. Like, it's just not going to work. And a lawyer needs to be able to say that. Um, I would do a lot of legal consultations in my last job, and I had so many people who were like, "You're not like any other lawyer I've ever met." And I was like, "We're out there, I promise." Like, you just have to keep going because you just got to break it down, and I think you'll feel it. A little trick that I use a lot is if you go to like legal aid programs, even if you don't qualify, or like local programs, ask them who are the good lawyers, because they know the lawyers that do the pro bono work. Not that they can like necessarily take your case, but they'll at least know who they
Mm-hmm.
are. And they'll tell you, don't go with this person. So they have great intel on like who in the community would be a great attorney. So, you know, if someone is listening and they don't know where to start, you could Google. That's one way to go. I wouldn't recommend it. You could
Mm-hmm.
call the local program and say, "Do you have a list of attorneys that you think are really good in this work? And can you give me their name?" And reach out that way.
I love that so much. And it's also understanding too. I recently discovered when I spoke to a new attorney, and she's like, who's your judge? Oh, okay, hold on. I've got somebody who spent a lot of time with that judge. And I was
Right.
like, oh, well, it's true. I mean, you're assigned to the judge until they decide they're stepping down.
Yeah.
And you need to know that your lawyer has probably a good relationship with the judge, or at least understands how the judge tends to think, because
Yeah.
family court, I mean, I've been there a lot. Some days I would like sit in the galley and I'm like, it's like kangaroo court. They're literally like, what is
People just come in and watch, like, 'cause they got nothing
I'm
else.
like, what is happening right now? You know, the judge is sitting there. Like, I can't even imagine. They've got like maybe what, 15 minutes with you?
Totally. Yeah. You know, the one thing about the judge, this is the thing about, I guess like doctors probably can't watch medical shows, and I think lawyers can't watch legal shows because like that's not how it goes. But they're always it's like, who's the most expensive lawyer? Who's like the big shot attorney, and bring them in. And it's like that's not what you do because they don't know your judge. And like you need someone who's like in there all the time. You
Yeah.
want someone who went to law school with this judge, or like at least they understand they have credibility in the court. You don't want the biggest and fanciest lawyer necessarily. And I have people who would ask me that, who's the most expensive? And I'm like, well, if that's the way you want to go. However, what about this way?
If you got money to burn, okay. But and it's
Yeah.
true though. As many times I've been in there, you do see the same sort of like five people, and you know, I'm not saying this to be judgy, and like I love you if you've been in the San Diego circuit, but they don't present as these like fancy, flashy, like lawyers that we're seeing right now on
Yeah.
like legal shows. You know,
Yeah.
they sort of
Yeah.
look like they've been really fucking busy
Yeah.
all day.
I've been run over by family court, and
Yes. So I like I really changed my thoughts of like, wait, you need the person who looks like they are like rolled up their sleeves and they are getting down in the trenches with you.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and you want someone who's got a good reputation, who knows that judge. You know, there are some judges where you don't want to go in front of them before lunchtime because they are just in a bad mood, right? And so you want to wait until they get
Oh
like, but
my
you should know
God.
that. And then different lawyers have different, or excuse me, different judges, different things make different judges mad. So, like with one judge, they won't like it if your argument is, I've always been the primary caretaker of my kid. It's always been me. I'm the one who knows the kid's shoe size. I'm the one who knows about this allergy. My partner, he doesn't know anything. That's why I should get him. Some judges don't like that because this judge will say, well, it's a different story now. That was when y'all were together and that worked. And now you're separated. We got to give him a chance to be a good parent. You've got another judge who will say, absolutely, you're the one who's been putting this in, and so we should go your way. And so if you've got a lawyer who doesn't understand who their judge is, then how are they going to tell your story?
Oh
Right.
my gosh. That is
So
so important. So
yeah, it's just,
important.
yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's why that local piece and having a good referral is the best place to start. I think the other thing is if you find a lawyer and you don't vibe with them, I would ask them directly. Say, hey, what colleagues do you also, because they'll totally understand if you shop around. So you can ask the lawyer, you can say, who else do you think would be really good at this work? Who do you know who's really good in family violence? And they'll give you those referrals.
When you're dealing with this, it's just, again, it's so overwhelming. So if you have somebody who can just approach it like, okay, I got you. These are the steps. And then what do we do for our pro se all days?
Oh gosh, we got to change the law, Lindsay. We got to change the whole system. We got to start over, I think, for pro se all day. It's hard. And I guess you've experienced this too, right? It's so hard. I think finding a support person in that case is going to be the most important thing. So get someone where you can like be the outlet. Like if that's a therapist, if that's a best friend, if that's an advocate, whatnot. Because what happens with pro se all day, it's just the weight that you have to carry going into court and worrying about, did I do this wrong or did I do this right? Right. So to take that emotional piece and like channel it somewhere, I think is really, really important. If you're someone who can sort of self-educate, like womenslaw.org is this amazing resource and it can really help you through all the pro se stuff. If you can find an attorney who will give you a consultation and a recommendation on where to go, like legal advice is better than nothing. Mm-hmm. But what I would say for pro se all day, there's a lot of things, is one, you mentioned 15 minutes. You don't get all day in front of the judge. And I think that's really hard because I think a lot of survivors, I think, the mentality is if I can just get in front of this judge and tell my whole story, then surely justice will be served. Surely. Like they'll see it. But the problem is you don't have that time to do it, right? You can't show them 45 text messages. The judge isn't going to read it. And so I think that piece, if you are able to practice telling your story in a real tight way, like hit the highlights, that's going to be the best way to go. Some guidance is I would always say, like, what was the last incident of abuse? What was the worst incident of abuse? And then give me the whole summary of it. It's like, okay, well, at this time I was strangled. This time he, held me, wouldn't let me access the bank accounts. And then here are all the other things that he's done. And you got to tighten it as much as you can. But for pro se all day, you're going to have to practice a lot in telling your story. And hopefully you have a judge who gives you a lot of room with it. I've seen a lot of judges be okay with folks taking their time and giving some room.
Well, it's scary, right? And it's emotional. And you've got the other person, and if the other person has a representation or it's just the two of you going at it, it's like sometimes you have to realize that the courtroom is not your place to be showing your emotions, because oftentimes the emotional person is the one who like presents unhinged or not the person. You've got to think, if you're dealing with a pathological person, they are so good at being like Zen masters. And I've witnessed word salading the judge. I've witnessed gaslighting the judge so much that the judge seemed confused. I've seen things, and you're going, oh my God. But you can't do that. You have to like literally just sit there and listen and take it. And I think oftentimes survivors like over explain everything because we've been dealing with our partner who has made us question and doubt everything that's ever happened. So you're like, I just have to explain it so much a million times until somebody understands what I'm saying. And I say this like I'm in a relationship right now that's very safe and very amazing. And I oftentimes I'll be like, okay, let me tell you something. And so our joke now is like, I'm like, okay, babe, story time with Lindsay, settle in. And he's like, he goes, I love you, but just like, can you get there? Can you just get to the, and I'm like, I don't know how. And I've
Totally.
like realized through therapy that they're like, that's just your brain is going, how many more things can I say so that you believe me? And the safe person is like, well, I believed you at the third word.
Yeah.
The unsafe.
That's why, like, if you get a bestie where you practice it and that bestie's like, wrap it up. Like,
Yes. Yes. That's what we need.
that like emotional outlet, like before you go and like truly just practicing it. I mean, a lawyer's going to do this with you anyway, right? But this is you
Right.
having to do it on your own, which is just the really worst part of it. But
Well,
yeah,
lawyers are going to practice, right? You're going to practice your opening, like
yeah,
whatever, and your closing arguments. Like you're going to, like, you're right.
exactly.
It's practicing. It's being able to say, like, stand in your confidence, do the highlight reel. And probably like we say this too, because there's so many women who have just unbelievable stories. And they're like, but then there was this one. And then there was like, they get worse and worse and worse and worse. And sometimes we feel once we're start sharing our stories, like the more I tell you how bad it was, then you'll believe it. But from what I'm hearing from you is like the judge is going like, I kind of just need like one bad thing and we're good. Maybe two.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the standard that we've done is like the most recent, the worst, and like the summary of everything else. The other thing we say is, speak even if your voice is shaking, because like there's authenticity in that, right? You don't have to like fake who you are.
Yeah.
Like show up as who you are. And it's going to be scary. And hopefully the judge understands that
Yeah.
this is not easy for any pro se person to be able to get up there and tell their story. And so even if you're shaking, go through it. There's a lot of like physical things like with our body that we can do. One is if your hands are like real tight, like tell yourself, let them go. Like anything that you can physically do to get your heart rate down in that moment, like to ground yourself could be helpful. It's okay to drink water, right? It's okay to stop and say, Judge, I need 10 seconds to take some breaths. Take a beat, right? And just like bring that heart rate down as much as you can in any space that you can. I think like we are often, especially survivors, like you have had control taken away from you over and over and over, but you can try to help your heart rate. You can try to control it, right? So just bring it down, try to catch your breath and slow down. And then what that does is it gets your brain flowing a little bit more. And so just leaning on these like little tiny things that you can try to do if you're just scared in that moment. Um,
It's
tell your
okay to be
body.
scared too. I've been so close to the microphone that I'm like, I swear to God, my heartbeat must be like on the speakers
Sure.
right now because it's
Yeah.
pounding out of my chest. Like, because the reality is there's a lot on the line and
Yeah.
you're fighting for your life. You're fighting for your children's life. You're fighting to protect them, and oftentimes too, maybe when we first get out, we're in a different mindset. We sometimes are not sometimes, you have to come to the realization that in most family court cases, they're pro family. And someone once said to me, like, in order for somebody to like lose custody of their children, this was the phrase they have to be like churning tricks in the backseat of the car while their child is driving, and then we'll like consider that dangerous. And then I was talking to one lawyer at one point where I'm like, well, what about like house? Like they don't have anywhere to live. And they're like, literally the standard of housing has to be a roof over your head because
Right.
we have to accommodate all walks of life. So
Yeah.
even though you might have sat here in one position and now you feel like they're living as substandard, it doesn't matter to the judge because they have to rule for the people. They're not
Yeah.
just necessarily ruling for your particular case. And once I started understanding that, I came back with a different approach of like, well, what is it that I want? And it can't be what I really believe is the best because the judge gets to make that decision, right? Like in so
Yeah.
many ways, which is just like so many women leave, like you see them and they've left like, oh my God. And it might take a few times to get the judge to understand what's really happening. But if you just come out like swinging, like I want all custody removed, I want this, I want that, I don't
Yeah.
know that that's going to
If
work.
your only story is dumping on the other person, that's a hard story for the judge because what the judge is looking for, just like you said, especially in a family unit, is what's going to be best for those kids. And sometimes taking the kids away from one of their parents, including the person who has been horribly violent and abusive, a lot of judges don't think that that is the right outcome. Um, And so if you just go in there slamming on the other person, you're going to have more to the story, right? And so the more you can tailor it to like the children, the better it is. And so if you say something about the harm that's caused in front of the children and say, my children felt afraid because they were able to see this. My children weren't able to get to school because I didn't have access to the car. My children weren't able to eat lunch this day because the credit cards were cut off, or just whatever you need to say is you want to talk about the impact of harm on the family unit, but mostly the kids as much as possible. And that's what the judges are looking for. You know, in Texas, the standard is not best interest of either party, it's best interest of the child, and to keep it centered on that as much as possible. That's going to be a better outcome in that sense. Yeah.
And it puts you in a better position too. Like, I want to remind everyone, you're going to be seeing this judge more than once, most likely, on a journey with a person like this or a situation like this. And I had Michelle Locke. We were talking about her before we went on air, and she just said something like, as a family court judge, she's like, I'm looking for the patterns. Show me the pattern of behavior. And it's like, when you can just like dumb it down to that, and like, but again, protective parents, you hear this all the time, mothers who are like, you're in it. You have to, I love what you've said. You have to go find a bestie and check your emotional shit somewhere else. Yeah. And show up for court as the person who's operating in the best interest of the kids. And you've got to be like, you know how bad he treated you, but it's not going to help your argument if that's all you're screaming about.
Maybe they need your hat, Lindsay. Like literally when they go talk to their bestie, they put their hat on.
Yes.
And when they go to court, they take the hat off. And
like, oh,
it's like a different persona, right?
It is.
Like have a different coat, have a different jacket, like whatever.
Yes. You just got to, I love that. Like, if you need a hat, I will send you one. If you need, they're on me. DM me. I will send you a hat if you need to. That's just amazing. Go be a baddie. You got it. Be like,
yeah. And I think this is the part where, you know, I mentioned earlier, like, I think survivors, the ones that I've counseled a lot, they think forward, right? Is if I tell my story, I'll get the outcome I want. A lawyer, a trauma-informed lawyer will also work backwards. They'll say, what is it that you want? And then they'll figure out how to get there. And sometimes your version of the story is not the way they get there. So you both want the same thing. You just go at it differently, right? So a lawyer might say, okay, let's actually emphasize this point first and then talk about the violence or then talk about XYZ. Mm-hmm. But there can be a tension in that. And so when you have an attorney who really gets you and really understands your goals, I think the other really important pieces too is like start up here, but holy smokes, have a plan B, have a plan C, have a plan D, like start big, but like, what are you going to give up? And it's just like that negotiation tactic, right? It's just like, you just always have to have a backup in mind. If you're not able to get what you want here, hopefully someone has worked with you in figuring out, well, what's next then? What's something that you could settle on?
And I have heard and experienced myself where you can contact an attorney and they'll just counsel you from afar. So they're like, for a smaller fee, I'm working with one right now. She's like, it'll cost me more to come to court with you, but for a different fee, I can help you kind of organize everything you need and get that strategy and so that you're prepared. Because I oftentimes too say this, and this is coming from my experience without the letters, like they love to run up a good bill, right? So if you imagine that your ex is focused solely on just whatever they can to destroy you as they did when you were together, that's like kind of their sole mission. So we need to like realize you're getting the amplified worst of them for all eternity. You are their nemesis. So if you're like, I wonder why they keep filing this shit. I wonder why they keep, because if you have a lawyer, they're very understanding of what those billable hours are. And they're like, whatever, right. I'll just run it up. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And
a judge might get tired of it, Lindsay. A judge might get tired of seeing one person just filing. Like it's going to get old after a minute. It's going to get old, and then your credibility is going to. You're like, see, it ain't me, right?
Yeah, I keep showing up, and like, you know, here we go. So that's really important to understand that this is like a long game in family court. So this is family court. Understand, and the judge knows. The judge sees you. The judge is like, oh God, here they go. Here they are. They're coming back. Like, what is it?
Lindsay, one thing that's really interesting is in some jurisdictions, you won't get the same judge every single time. Sometimes it's a rotating docket. And so I know you like have listeners from, you know, all over the world, right? But it might be different in that maybe you will have the judge who hears the same thing over and over again. Or you might be in a place, a jurisdiction where you get a different lawyer or a different judge every single time.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's important to know. I'm only speaking for those in North County, San Diego. That's just
Yeah.
been my experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, and you're just like, hey, what's up? You
Yeah.
know?
No, totally. But I think that's why if you have a lawyer, again, someone who's local and really gets it, they don't have to know one judge. They have to know like nine,
Right.
because they have to be prepared every single time. And that's really hard for pro se all day, which is where you come up as your total authentic prepared self. That's going to be your best bet. But if you're in a place where you're going to have a rotating docket, like rotating judges, you need someone who knows what they're doing. Because you might have one judge where you got to bring an expert witness in, and you might have another judge who knows this stuff so well, they're going to feel really irritated because they already know this stuff.
Oh,
Um, but
yeah.
it's different. It's different rules everywhere you go.
Okay, that's really important to know on family court. So I want to move the conversation to civil court because you could be dealing in multiple courts and multiple experiences, as we know. But like for someone, what's the difference? Like what
Yeah.
happens over in civil court?
Yeah, so here's something interesting is if you go, like if you just Google your county, right, and you go to your county page, and if you hover over like a courts tab, what's going to happen, Lindsay? It's going to drop down and there's going to be like 15 different options for civil court. So it's going to be like, is it protective order court? Is it domestic violence court? Is it veterans court? Is it drug court? Like it's just going to be all this mess of what it is. Not drug court, but is it going to be like a probate issue? So you got to figure out where you are. I think if you are someone who receives a piece of paper and it says something like you have been sued or you have a pending court date, it's going to be really easy to jump into an assumption of what it is. But don't hold on to that assumption. Like do some research, like figure out exactly what kind of court it is, right? Ask people, reach out, find out. Almost every jurisdiction should have some option for some sort of legal aid. Like it might be super far away, but see if you can get a call and get some legal advice. I call it like a little lawyer sitting on your shoulder, whispering in your ear. So see if you can get some legal advice, but just figure out where you are first, is what I would say with civil court. The people that I helped the most, it was mostly protective orders. That's what we call it here in Texas.
Okay.
And it was a lot of housing stuff. It was a lot of folks who wanted to just get out of their apartment and they couldn't do that. And it was a lot of like consumer rights stuff. So people who had gotten, screwed over on a car, people whose credit card debt had been run up, they had creditors coming after them. But civil court is just this big, big, big conceptual thing. And you got to pare it down and figure out exactly where do you fit within civil court. So that's the first step, is figure out where you are.
It's big and scary and cold and dank for a reason.
Yeah,
And you're like,
things.
it is. You're like, oh, my cortisol is spiking just like thinking about that website.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, you have to like take a beat, take
You
a
have to take a
breath.
beat.
And
Yeah.
everything is like, I didn't know this until later. Kind of everything has an opportunity to be challenged. Just because this was the order doesn't mean that's your order for life. Just because
Yeah.
there's really just understanding that there's like order and operations that have to happen. And it's not just, you just have to be prepared and be in a really good position. But I want to talk a little bit too about the reality that a lot of besties are facing. And that is what happens when you leave. And this is like, here's my trigger warning. I'm going to be a Debbie Downer for a minute. You've gotten out. You're safe. You're rebuilding your life. Now you've experienced something that you didn't know was coming. And we know that to be known as post-separation abuse. So I want to arm you with all of the information and all of the words so you know what's coming next. This is a giant chessboard. We want to make you be in a position that you're 5 moves ahead because you've been 30 moves behind for so long. Post-separation is real. I want to talk about litigation abuse. What is that? What does it mean?
Yeah, I had one one client tell me, she said, Nikita, she's like, when I was in this relationship, she's like, it was horrible, it was violent, and it was abusive, but I knew it. I knew what the rules were. The rules kept changing, but then I would learn those rules, but I knew how to play that game. She had left and she goes, I don't know how to play this game now. Like it's a totally different set of rules and you don't know what's going to come. I think trusting your gut and knowing what's safe and unsafe, like that is something that you should always hold tight to. That's something that you've lived with, and that safety planning is always really important. But I think that's one thing that I've always tell people is like, you don't know how he's going to act now. So you don't know if the violence or abuse is going to get worse or if it's going to be different. Or now that because you've left, they're going to try to work it out all of a sudden. And this is where the sweetness and that person you first met is going to show up again. And I think this is why it takes so many times for someone to leave, is because they get pulled in so many different ways. Maybe it's because the violence went up. Maybe it's because that promise, like, you really wanted to believe in this, and we can't minimize, like, there's true love. There's true love.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
just true love. It's not being stupid. It's not. I mean, I think of like so many relationships that I've seen friends in, and it's like not great, not abusive, but not great. And you like stick it out, right? So you try that same sort of tactic. Um, but I think that's one thing is to really emphasize is now it's a new game and you don't know what it's going to be like. And so you have to remember why you left and what is it that you want, which is why, like, write it down, like figure out
Yes.
it's a new game. It is a new game now.
Writing it down is so important because oftentimes when they're back in that cycle and they're in the nice cycle, and you're going to see like 75 different cycles. I've been saying, I'm like, can we please have like a predictability app? Like, you can track your periods, you can track the cycle of abuse. And when like, and you
That
can,
what you cut out, Lindsay.
we're like, oh, here I'm on day
Oh my
27.
goodness. Yeah.
And that's what I like. But you can start tracking the patterns, and you can start tracking when you start writing things down, because you're going to be gaslit. You're going to be told like it didn't happen. But if you can have somewhere with you're like, okay, on December 12th at 11:23, this is what they said. They're going to change it the second that it suits the narrative. They flip the script, all the things,
Yeah.
but they want to do whatever they can to get the thing that they want in that moment. And if
Absolutely.
that means that they have to be nice to you again, or they have to send you a nice little flirty text, or,
Yeah.
tell you they're going to do all the things and go to all the therapies and change all the stuff, drop your lawyer. How many times have I heard that? Just drop your lawyer. We can work
Oh my
this
gosh,
out.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
They want to win. They're manipulating you. So when we say, I love that you said that you're operating like in a new game too, because oftentimes you can predict how your abuser is going to behave based on what's happening in your day, what's happening with their job. Have they been drinking? Did they get any sleep? Like, when you're living in it, you kind of
Yeah.
know all the things. This is like, now you're shadow boxing, like, in a way. You're like, I'm going to guess that this is how it's been. So if you can start writing those moments down where you're like,
Yeah.
they're oddly nice right now.
One thing that drives me nuts about the legal system is I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and like, okay, well, you left. Why are you still in communication with this person? That must mean you are not afraid of this person. That must mean that you want to still be with this person. And it's actually the opposite. So a lot of people want to stay in connection because they want to know exactly where that person is, like in terms of like physically, where are they? Because that is related to your safety. Or they want to know what their mood is because they know when it's Friday and that paycheck comes in and they go out drinking, like, you got to be a little bit careful. So you need to know exactly where they are. And so it just drives me kind of nuts. It's like, well, you kept talking to this person. It's like, well, that's the way to stay safe, is because you have to know exactly what space they're in at all times.
Yes. I just had this conversation with somebody and they were like, "What? It just seems like you keep engaging." And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to understand what they're, because we have kids together. I need to know the mindset. I need to know what they're doing. I'm like indifferent to their shit now, but
Yeah.
I really need to understand their headspace." And I feel like Carrie from Homeland, with like all those like strings and everything, if I could
Love
just
it.
put it all together, I'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. Or it
we're
was
good."
always funny. Yeah. That meme.
We're good. We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
So they're going to be completely manipulating you. You're going to be dealing with this litigation abuse. And so what have you seen? What's like the worst that could happen? They just keep filing motion after motion, or they're trying to
Yeah.
make you broke.
Yeah, some of the hard stuff, I mean, some of the super hard stuff is where you do find a lawyer that you really connect with and they're doing well, right? And then you put down like 10, 15, 20K, and then you get temporary orders out of it. Or you get a protective order, fabulous, but no piece of paper can like dictate how someone else is going to treat you, right? Like there's limitations to it, especially in abusive spaces. And so what happens with the enforcement piece? I think that's where maybe a lot of our survivors get stuck, is maybe they got the orders that they want, or maybe they got custody, maybe they got their protective order, but it's still going on. And now you have to go back into, now you have to go back into court and say, what is going on with this other person? I think some of the other things that they might do is they'll go just enough to make it confusing. So you said like when they text you, you save the text. Now they can say something, but it means something different, right? Like,
Yes.
you know, from your history with this person, like that's not like, it might seem innocuous, but I think that's the part that I've had to counsel some people is like, you're just going to have to keep a budget for legal services. Like the same way you budget out for rent and the same way you budget out for food, like you're going to have to keep a line item for your legal bucket to be able to
Girl,
keep.
that is like literally, I used to want like vacations and maybe a nice bag. Now I'm like, I just want to make enough money that I can have a family lawyer on retainer.
Isn't
Like,
that gross? I know.
ew.
Yeah, you need your
All I
bag.
want for Christmas is a family lawyer. What the?
Isn't that exactly?
That's gonna be. I'm gonna ask like maybe Mariah Carey can redo the song for us.
Yeah,
Like she'll be like,
exactly.
"All I
All I want
want
is some
for
representation.
Christmas is representation."
Oh no. You got budget for it because like it could go on forever. So just because you get those orders, like
Yes.
celebrate it, right? Like you did
Right.
it, and then celebrate your courage and celebrate that you're able to do something. And also like it's MILF. Like it's gonna go on at least till their kids are 18.
Seriously, it is. Welcome to the MILF Mafia. It's
Indeed.
and you also have to when we talk about protective orders, it's like I love to say, and we have seen, and I'm sure you have, extreme cases, right? Where you're like, I mean, you just go on the Instagram for a few minutes and you're like, oh my God, the things that like Tina Swithin brings to light and all of these cases where you're like, oh my God, it's so bad. Oftentimes a protective order is going to ramp up somebody. Like now you've just flexed the biggest boundary. Now you've put them on blast. Now you have like some sort of record that they're this person with this order.
Yeah.
And I'm always just, you know the person better than anyone. So it's like being able to go to you as their attorney and as the bestie and say like, you know what? If I do this in this way, or I serve them in public, or if I, it's going to just amplify because now you've created the greatest crime against them, which is you've put the shame on them. You've called them out on their bad behavior. And then they're like, what? And so there's often times where I just like, you have to really understand what you're working with and then understand what that piece of paper does and doesn't do.
Yeah, one thing I used to say a lot is like there's a difference between like the best legal option and then the safest option. Like sometimes they're not the same thing. And I think you really need to get good advice in figuring this out. And you have to bring your expertise on your safety. Like you are an expert on your safety, and you have to be able to articulate that and have someone who's going to hear you for y'all to figure out which one do you want to go for. Do you want to go for the protective order or not? Lindsay, what's so interesting is I've also had people who have had protective orders and lost and felt more empowered because they finally got to say in open court what they wanted to say to this or open like to this person. Like they were able to say in front of that person and in front of all of their family, you did this. And I had that survivor say they knew it was true. The judge didn't go with me on this way, but I don't feel bad. Like I was able to say my piece. Like I was able to say what I wanted to say. And it was always a reminder is that every single person is so different, right? So if you hear someone who has the exact same story as yours, it could still go completely different ways. So trust yourself, trust your expertise, figure out what it is that's most important to you. It really, I mean, it moved me when this person said, all I wanted to do was say it.
Right? Your truth is out there just in front of the person and you're in a protective space. It's so important to feel validated and to be heard and seen. And if that's, again, I love it. Like we say all the time, you don't even have to say you're a survivor of domestic abuse. You don't have to, like, it doesn't have to be a badge of honor you wear. You don't have to share your story. You don't, just whatever makes you feel really great about yourself, empowered. I'm speaking loud enough for everyone right now. So whatever, you don't have to share it. Just send it to me and I'll read it on Texties from the Xties, whatever. I love to share this story so that you can stand there and be like, I love the visual of this woman sharing her truth and walking out feeling like a baddie.
But she got something out of it. She got something out of it. There's also like other things to think about and like, is it the right timing for your protective order? Because, oh my gosh, Lindsay, some of the hardest stuff is like they go in with everything that they've got and you put all your story out there. And then for it to not go your way. And now this other person has heard from a judge. See, I didn't do anything. It's all
Yeah.
you. Like, that
Oh,
could be crushing. That could be crushing. And so if a lawyer, one who you trust and who knows what they're doing and all they do all day is protective orders, tells you don't go for it, I would consider that very, very strongly, because
okay.
you don't want that validation out there. And there's like
Yeah.
certain laws and like how that affects how you can bring that testimony in future things, in future litigation. So you have to be really careful, because another judge might say, well, this judge already ruled on it, so I don't even want to hear any of that anymore. Let's go from everything forward. So there's a lot of strategy involved, in even just protective orders.
It's key, right? I'm hearing a lot from you. Like it's strategy, it's planning, it's getting into this place. Like if hopefully you didn't leave how I left and you have a safety plan, you have you know, you've exited in all the right way. You still need to carry that mindset that everything moving forward is now you need to operate it like a business or you need to remove the emotion if you can, as emotional as it is. So I hear you're saying like be able to go talk to somebody else. I also want to encourage anyone listening. So many people, I mean, even though the statistics are what they are, like 1 in 4, maybe 1 in 3,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that the people in your inner circle have the bandwidth, ability, or like kind of the like they may even not give a fuck. Sorry, not
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
know about what's happening. And they may not be the best person for you to just vent and ask, like, well, what should I do? Because you're gonna like those aren't the people. So it's like you also have to get to the point where we're so like, I'm gonna just tell everybody, like, did you see what he did? And da 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 da. And you have to remember, like, your kids are still playing with their kids. You're gonna still see them at school. There's gonna be like, and we're so conditioned to be like, we don't talk about what happens over at the Smith's residence. You know, we're like, we
Yeah.
just keep our side of the street clean. Or maybe Mrs. Smith is in an abusive relationship and she's not ready to come forward yet. So you're like
Yeah.
you're like striking a chord. So it's almost like have your life, have it all here, have your healing journey happening. But then, like over here, have your badass team and whatever that team is. And that's where you go every single time. And you start compartmentalizing because
Yeah.
I think the second that you can do this, and that's why I always say, go to Talking Parents app, move everything you can to like one place where
Yes.
you're not like all over the, like, I think it's I always tell this story. Like, I have one of those like wine boxes. They're like that 3 bottles of wine would come in because I know somebody in the business and it's thick and it's big. That is how I documented and kept all my court shit for like the
Yeah.
first year. And that was a disaster. And every single time I had to like, I get an like a RFO notification, I'd have to
Yeah.
like go pull the box out. And then I'm like going through all the
Oh, I
papers
know.
and it was like such a freaking mess. There's coffee on my protective order. There's this, there's like,
And you can't
it,
drop that box in front of a lawyer because
no,
they'll
I was
keep
like,
reading that.
oh my God. I was such
Where'd the
a
wine go
hot,
that was in there? That's the question that'll be asked. It's
yeah,
like,
exactly. Right. I got it for free. I promise. But it's like it was such a hot mess in the beginning of my journey. And it's like, now I want to say, okay, let's just put you on Talking Parents. Let's get you organized. Let's get you just have this part of your life be this part of your life.
yeah.
And the more I think you can just sort of like say, I'm going to give this attention when I need to give it attention. And then I'm going to come back to my healing. I'm going to come back to my sanity, my kids, my friends, my life, my whatever. And we're stuck sometimes in this mentality of like, oh my God, I'm just like, my entire life is this, but it's
Yeah.
really not. It's like, and on the grand scheme of things, it's not your entire life for the rest of your life forever and ever.
And you're
It's
out. You're out and you're safe.
out.
And your kids are out, right? Like,
Yes.
that's what I was talking about at the beginning, is like, this is where you see the resilience is like I don't know, you come out, it's like, I guess that phoenix type of thing is like you've risen from
Yeah.
the ashes and you're out. Now you still got to like fly through some nonsense, but
Yeah. But the
you
more
made
you
it.
can just put it somewhere and be like, I know it's there. I'll look at it tonight at 7 o'clock. I know it's
Yeah.
there. I'm going to talk to my lawyer about it. And, you know, there's so many resources now that have come out. We have a great friend, Ann Wintemute, who has a chat called Amy Says. And
Mhm.
you can just put like all of their messages, all of your court documents, all into this chat. And the Amy chat kind of helps you understand all the things that are happening, and breaks it down in a way that you can say like, oh, okay, now I understand all of the legal jargon, all the big
Yeah.
words. And There's a lot of cool resources.
There's one thing you reminded me of, Lindsay, is like, you know how we talked about earlier, like making sure you write down what your goals are. What will happen is once you start coming closer to something you have to sign, if you start running it to your bestie who's done it before, and then your bestie's bestie, and they're like, oh, don't do this. I got this, or I heard of a friend who did this. And then you can start going back, you're going to start spinning, and it's going to drive a lawyer nuts. It's going to drive it. So like, trust yourself. Trust yourself. If you're in a mediation and you don't like those terms, walk away from it, right? Like try again a different way. But it is so easy to get confused in that minutia because you have like 15 different voices coming out for you. So just like you said, like you have to be really strategic in even who you have as your team, like your bestie team in this, because if you start bringing in, you know, your bestie's bestie, or like this is the Smith family and they got this, like it's going to start getting very confusing.
Yeah. And everybody's situation is different, and everybody's like kind of remembering it wrong too.
Sure. Exactly. Or they have a different judge or a different court. Like it's all different. Like stick with you. Stick with
exactly.
you.
Yes. You are your own, like now you're your own baddie for the first time in a really long time.
Yeah.
You can trust yourself. You can do hard things. You just did it. You're out, you're here, you've got this. So I love this conversation. And what I think that the more empowered we are, the more we're just able to just get to that like conditioning faster, where you're like, okay, I got it. It's not going to derail my day. And I say this from experience. I used to get these messages and then I'd be like, oh my God, I can't make it through the next 2 days. And it was just like all encompassing, you know, exhausting. When you realize that you do have a great team, you realize there are resources, the hotline's there for you. You're not going at this alone anymore. You were more alone in that relationship with that abusive person.
Yes. Yeah.
You're out of the silo, you're in the light. And so what we're doing is we are building a bestie toolkit. I would love for you to put a tool in our bestie toolkit, whatever that may be. What would be something that we could give to the besties, like a piece of advice or some sort of, obviously the hotline is like the biggest tool. I need like, that's its own shed.
Yeah. We are always here for you 24/7. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Call, text, or chat us anytime for sure. This might be quite simplistic, but I think there's just such power in it. Is just take a breath. Like that's your best tool, is like slow it down, slow your mind down, slow your heart down, bring your shoulders down, lower your eyebrows, take the deep breath. There's so many different ways that you can regulate and give yourself even a moment of peace. I have been on the phone call with survivors many times, and I would tell them, I'm going to step outside just for 2 minutes. Can you do that safely? Or I'm going to take a drink of water. Can you take a drink of water? Just bring it down. It'll help.
I love that. I actually just got really calm. Just
bring it down. Just bring it down.
That's a beautiful tool. Like take a breath. Yeah, I love it. It's just so simple, and it's on like something that we're so wound up, so just tight. We're like, bring it down. Let's see that neck. Let's see it.
Yeah, where's the tension? Is it the jaw? Is it your eyebrows? Is it like the shoulders? There's so many places, and then you can even work top to bottom. Just bring them down.
I love it. Okay, I want to invite you into my club, and there are no like fees or weird things that you have to do to participate. And obviously participation.
I have to sign something. Let's see.
Yeah. I'm going to get a lawyer to sign something, y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're building the biggest, baddest bestie gang, and all of my lovely experts that get to come on the show and we learn so much from. So our Tuesday show is just like all the letters. And then our Thursday show, our Bitch Sesh, is the Survivor series. And I really always hope that a survivor is listening on a Tuesday show so that they really do feel like they're part of a bestie gang, that they have this resource. And you are an absolute baddie. You're a bestie to so many people. And my club, we're BFFs, but it means we're bitches fighting for freedom. And I think you're one, and we would love to have you.
Oh, Lindsay, thank you. I would love to join.
Yay, we have a new BFF.
Thank you. How much fun. Thank you.
This has been an amazing conversation, and I'm so incredibly grateful to you, to the hotline, and you know the behind the scenes that go into what you do and what the hotline does is just, it's insane.
Yeah,
And
we're here for you.
you guys are just like casual, chill, like, yeah, just call us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We got you.
We're here for you. Call more than once. You can call. Yeah. We're
I
here for you.
I love it. And they really do. They mean it. And you guys are taking such great care of the advocates that are working at the hotline, which is something that I really just want to take a second to just shout out to, because every person who's working there being a bestie is being excuse me, is being treated
Yeah.
like a bestie and is getting the secondary help that they need. And, you know, at the hotline, there's like these beautiful rooms where you can go take a minute and you can go take a breath. And, you know, you guys really do care so much about everybody that is calling in and answering calls and working at the hotline. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that. We believe deeply. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so it's like find some strength, find some peace. It makes a big difference, even in little moments at a time.
Okay, well, I have to always ask, where can we find you?
You can find us, call, text, or chat, of course. So 1-800-799-SAFE or thehotline.org. We're here for you.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining us on this very special episode of Bitch is a Bad Word. And we will see you next Tuesday, besties.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you for joining us on this very special episode of Bitch is a Bad Word in partnership with thehotline.org. Remember, if you are in immediate danger, please use 911, crash on a friend's couch, do whatever you have to do to get safe. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. Or you can reach them at thehotline.org. You can send them a chat. They're there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Besties are standing by. They've got your back. Please join us on Patreon. I always say this. If you can rebuild your network, you will build your net worth. There are besties on Patreon, patreon.com/bitch is a bad word, that are joining forces and having great conversations. And it's just a really cool place to meet and experience just a community that understands what you're going through. And like Nikhita was talking about, you may need to start adjusting the people you're speaking to, how you share your story. And over here on Patreon, everyone is sharing resources and conversation, and you can kind of just go and just feel safe and seen and heard and loved over there. And then put that in the box, come back to your regular life and do the things you're going to need to do. You can do hard things. We know this. I absolutely believe in every single one of our listeners. Please send me your texties from your exties. You can DM them to me at bitchesabadwordpod on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok at bitchesabadword, and you can listen and watch this entire episode on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe, like, share with a bestie on YouTube. Our handle is bitchesabadwordpod. The I is an exclamation point. So if you're looking for us, that's how you find us. I'm so incredibly grateful to every single one of you for tuning in, sharing your stories, reaching out. You can send me a text message on 331 bitches. Send me a DM. I love listening to your voicemails. I love reading your DMs. And if this is an episode that resonates with you, please do share it with a bestie and like and review on all platforms. It does so much for us on, you know, the admin side, as they say. Thank you for having my back. We've got yours. And we'll see you next Tuesday, besties. Our editor is Kevin Mackler. Our music was composed by Drew Kevorkian. Our art design was created by Eric Johnson and Kevin Roche. Our Patreon is managed by Kay. Our interns are baddies. And this has been a Caliber Studios production. Bitches being bad.